In terms of roles in digital marketing, which we're going to go through very shortly, roles really depend on the size of the company. As the example I gave you before about the digital marketing person, that's usually in a small company because that's where it's needed. Where you can imagine big conglomerates, big massive supermarkets, or like the example of Tesco that I've used many times, they would be unlikely to have a digital marketing generalist role. You can imagine it'd be a bit more specific. If they do have a digital marketing role, you can imagine it'd be the director of digital marketing or a manager, someone who oversees all the other elements. Once again, you can see how having that broad understanding in that team model marketing approach will help you in that situation. But we'll come on to that shortly. So roles really depend on the size of the company. Sometimes you're specializing in the small part of a big company. In other companies, you are having to run the whole of digital marketing. Of course, it's not just one or the other. There are also variations in between, so be prepared. In many roles, you might just have to wear multiple hats. But as we know, in any job we do, it depends on your boss, doesn't it, sometimes, or your client, what you want doing. I've worked in corporate environments or I've worked in retail and I've worked for different bosses. And even though I may have been doing the same job, the boss will have different priorities or maybe want you to focus on a certain element of that. So obviously, bear that in mind. So, in terms of the roles within digital marketing, an example would be market research. So, market, keyword, competitor research, and analysis is an overlapping area, not only between themselves, but also lend themselves to other areas of digital marketing. So, as we've already established, this can help you in all areas really. So, doing the market research, the job as an analyst, insight specialist, content audit, keyword research, or even as I put in green there, you can have something else that you might want to do, maybe something else that you want to be doing and having a knowledge of. But you can see it's all related to market research. That could be someone doing surveys, someone maybe doing implementation of what we've learned. So, like the analysis role. I mean, there's lots of things, but it's all related to market research. But it is also overlapping with other areas. So, in terms of keyword research, you can see how that would overlap, especially in areas of SEO. The next one, if I'm being honest with you, website roles have traditionally been specialist roles. So they're done by developers or website designers, people generally with an idea of computer science. However, simplified platforms such as WordPress, CMS, which you mentioned, and the drag and drop style means that you don't really require that development area or you don't really require that extra bit of information that you might need for a website developer. But still, in my mind, I see it as a specialist role. So when we're working with website developers, you're looking at someone who's generally a website developer, but I want them to have a digital marketing understanding. One of the big things I do is when I'm having mind mapping meetings or team meetings, I'll make sure the website people are there. Some people say, "Oh no, they're website people. They're not digital marketers." No, it's very important because you might have a great idea for a digital marketing campaign and say, "Oh, we're going to do this, and on the website we'll do that, then we'll do this," and coming up with some creativity. After 6 hours of a meeting, you'll go to the website designer, and then you'll say, "We're going to do this." They'll say, "Well, we can't do that because the website doesn't have the functionality. We'd have to create a brand new website to do that." So that whole mind mapping session, that team meeting where you're all energized and really going for it. Had the website person been there, they could have told you straight away that that wouldn't be possible. So really important to have the website person on board. But as I mentioned, it is a specialist role. So of course you can upload things, but generally the website role I would say is a specialist within itself. And in terms of roles within the websites and landing pages world, you've got developers, you've got CMS website builders. So developers would be more the computer science and customized websites. CMS website builders are people maybe using things like Squarespace, Shopify, Wix, Weebly, all these type of platforms. I say Weebly, but Weebly's just closed recently, hasn't it? So that's become part of Square. So yeah, you've got website builders, you've got UX, user experience. That was a role that did really well during the COVID times. I think was everyone was stuck at home. Everyone wanted to be involved in UX because you were basically going on websites and testing them out. Then you can see related to that, as we did in our earlier modules where we've talked about funnels and landing page designers. So that's become more of a specialty within itself. You've got people building funnels, understanding the website or the landing page. So using platforms like Go High Level, using platforms like ClickFunnels, and understanding how they can design a good landing page with the funnel in mind and integrating them too. So you can see there's of specialisms there. Search engine optimization are the roles in SEO. So you can see SEO executive would be more maybe an entry level or a general role. SEO specialist, you see a lot of those roles. Content strategist, copywriter, SEO analyst, and there's probably a few more SEO roles, but this was just to give it, I mean, SEO manager is another role in there. So you can see there are roles within SEO, and these are maybe some of the ones that you'd be interested in. Social media, probably one of the biggest areas. And once again, I've tried to be as brief as possible, but the role of a social media specialist, platform specialist, because once again, nowadays you have people within organizations that don't want to just work in social media, they'll maybe just work just on TikTok and creating TikTok content and posting on TikTok. Then you have the content manager who's more general and more responsible for the type of content you're providing across the social media. And then you have maybe like a similar, like an entry level type of role on social media executive, where they're responsible for posting content onto all the social media channels and keeping them ticking over. And then obviously a social media manager maybe would be in a slightly bigger company where they're responsible for managing all of the social media or responsible for keeping an eye on what people are doing within the different leads within the social media platforms. So you can see there's a social media manager's role there as well. One of the, I suppose, not an exciting part. I probably say this because I like this area of paid ads. So you can see from a social media perspective, you've also got paid ads, but also you from a paid ads perspective, you've got the search ads. So you could be someone who specializes in meta ads, which is Facebook and Instagram, Google ads, X ad, which was Twitter, LinkedIn ads, TikTok ads. So you can see the options there, or once again, on a smaller level for a smaller company, maybe they want to do advertising on all areas. That's then one of the areas, and one of the things I mentioned during the course is to focus on meta. And I always say, don't if you get meta right, then everything else you can get right as well. Looking at email and CRM. So email and CRM, you can see campaign manager, someone who's responsible for making sure the campaign goes out right. Automation specialist. So these are people who are specialized in making sure the emails go out at certain times. What time? Are they drip fed? Are they all going out together? CRM manager. So we've talked about what customer relationship management system is, and obviously these are huge things. So you need to learn to manage that. Email sequencing, people once again. So when you have that webinar style of event, how do we sequence the emails? And once again, this overlaps into the funnel builder area as well. So that is your email sequencing. Funnel designer, once again, see the overlap into because obviously funnels, emails, landing pages, and you can see there template designer. I mean, template designer is more about the design of the actual emails that you get. And remember, we've said a couple of hours on email can bring in quite like what was it about 4%, 4.7% conversion rate, and that's just for 2 hours work. So you can see that template designer who's done the work to make sure all the templates are in place. And once again, I keep mentioning it depends on the size of the business as well. Video, this is once again, as I mentioned, a specialism within itself. And if you're really interested in video, then I think this is the right way for you to go. But if you're not and you like doing it a little bit, because it is a hard task. It sounds exciting when you see the videos on TikTok, but remember, there's the preparation that goes into it. There's the recording, and then most of all, there's the editing. So you can see the roles within there: editing, the video production manager, video marketing specialist, video content creator, in-app editor. So you can see very video focused there, and just an idea of some of the roles. Content creation, once again, this overlaps in other areas. So you can be creating content for social media posts, such as images. You could be a content creator in terms of copyright. So you could maybe be writing the actual posts, or maybe you could be writing the blogs, maybe you could be writing product descriptions. Content, once again, could be graphics and visuals. So rather than just social media posts, maybe you're creating content to go on the website. Maybe there's other visuals tied into the next one, video, and then the content marketing manager who kind of oversees all of this process. So you can see a lot of roles in a lot of areas. And one that I think people like to get into, and it is exciting, and the one that we have mentioned in the course, influencers and affiliates, of course. So you've got like a partnerships coordinator. So a lot of companies will work with influencers, affiliates, and maybe well-known people. Remember that overlapping area? So maybe you'll have someone who's responsible for that. They're responsible for reaching out, once again, related to your target audience. All goes back to that research. Remember what we did at the start? So the partnerships coordinator will have an understanding of who we need, which target audience we need to reach out to, and then based on that, they form partnerships with the right influencers and affiliates. You have affiliate marketing specialists. You'll recall when we were going through the module, we were talking about people who specialize in affiliate marketing. There's once again dedicated websites just for affiliate marketing. And once again, going back to what I always say about being a specialist in the whole of digital marketing. There's community managers, so you can have people who look after certain communities and look after those. Influencer marketing manager. It's an exciting area, and roles are being created because sometimes you go in straight to the influencer. Sometimes you're having to go through an agent or a representative or a website. So it can get like a crowded marketplace. But once again, but sometimes some of these roles will be add-on roles. I should say that because if you're working for a smaller company, they'll want to work with affiliates or they want to work with partnerships, but that might just be a role of the digital marketing executive. So having a knowledge of this, as I mentioned, going back to that T model marketer is very important. Google Analytics specialism, we mentioned that in the course very recently, and you can see you'd be responsible for analysis and research, data analysis, so analyzing the actual data, CRO, the conversion rate optimization, so looking at the data and thinking, how can we improve it? Reports and case studies. I mentioned to you how much of a hassle it was for me creating those reports, and obviously case studies you need to show your clients. I think I've mentioned throughout the course where some customers I work with, they just want the report. Nice, fancy report. Some customers or potential clients, I should say, some people want me to send them a fancy case study, like PDF, fantastic images, everything good, and they'll say, "Oh, send me a case study of the work you've done." Some people just say, "Kaz, can you just WhatsApp me what you've done?" And then based on a few WhatsApps, they'll take you on, you'll take them on as a client. Once again, who's the most important thing of this? The customer. Provide the customer with what they want. If you've done a fancy case today and the person says, WhatsApp me images, don't send them a fancy case today. Send them the WhatsApp images and say, do you want me to send you a case study as well? Most of the time they'll say no because they don't have time to read through it. And then a web analytics specialist or someone who looks at the website information, draws conclusions, and thinking obviously to hypotheses, forming hypotheses, and coming up with ideas. And then, as we mentioned a number of times, the digital marketing generalist. One of the, I suppose it's an exciting role. So you could be working as a digital marketing manager, where you'll be responsible for all the digital marketing. You could be a digital marketing executive where maybe the business isn't big enough to have a manager for it, but maybe you're responsible or you're reporting to, maybe you might be reporting to the digital marketing manager or a marketing manager. You've got a strategist, one of these. I think I'm a big fan of the strategist areas, and if I'm being honest with you, strategist is probably an area you come into as you get more and more experience because you'll have the knowledge, you'll have a bit of experience, but the more experience you have, the better because you'll know, oh, I've done this in the past and that worked, or this has worked for somebody else. And you just once again, as you become a marketer, you notice more and more things. So as I mentioned to you many times you will now look at websites differently. Before you looked as a customer, now you look at websites as a marketer. Then you'll have also a content strategy. So maybe someone who just focus on the content and they're creating that strategy based on the objectives. That strategy is then implemented in the tactics and actions. Look at that. Always coming back to soft stack. That's why I say it is the blueprint for success. And within digital marketing, you can work in marketing because sometimes even though you're working in digital marketing, sometimes there'll be non-digital things that you're working on. So direct mail, maybe event sponsorship, as we mentioned, there's an overlap there, and maybe there's things that's going on there that you need to be aware of. So that's like the generalist role. All the roles I've been through so far will develop and roles that will continue to develop. But it's just to give you an idea to understand if you're having an affinity to one area or another. Do you want to be the digital marketing generalist and be responsible for a broad area? Or would you like to focus on one particular area that you're really interested in? So it's just to give you an idea of to think. So the next thing we're going to look at is how to get into these roles and the options that you have there.